The one of the things that we are watching as the draft approaches, and it's so funny because every few days there's another quote, there's another development, there's another piece of the puzzle that confirms for me, and yes, folks in Cincinnati, you're not going to like this segment at all, but I believe that Joe Burrow hopes the Bengals don't draft him, but he's not yet ready to make a power play. And by the way, in 35 minutes, we're going to have a draft of players throughout history that we believe should have made a power play. Really, only two ever did. John Elway in 1983 and Eli Manning in 2004. I don't know that Joe Burrow is going to do it, Chris, but every time he has a chance to talk about this or someone in his family talks about it, no one has said, what are you talking about? Yes, we want to be drafted by the Bengals. We're from Southeast Ohio. Yes, it's his dream to play for the Bengals. He wants to be the first overall pick, and he wants that pick to be the Bengals. They've never said that. Now, at one point, Joe Burrow said, and this was weeks ago, he's willing to play for whoever will pay him to play. But after Carson Palmer came out and said what he said about the Bengals, not trying to win, and then it came out that Jordan Palmer, Carson Palmer's brother, is working with Joe Burrow. Right. And then Joe Burrow was on the Dan Patrick Show 2 days later and said, I just want to play for a team that's committed to winning. It wasn't all that difficult to piece the puzzle together and come to the conclusion that Joe Burrow, if attached to a polygraph machine and or given a healthy dose of sodium pentothal, would say, I hope the Bengals don't draft me. And it's okay for him to feel that way.
It is.
Why should these guys just blindly submit to the process? He's embarking on a professional career, and if he doesn't want to play for the Bengals, he shouldn't have to play for the Bengals, although we know that's not the way it is. So they've got to try to finesse this into maybe getting the Bengals to realize on their own that it's not in their best interest to draft Joe Burrow.
Yeah, there's so many things here. I mean, there really is. First off, I would bet that Joe Burrow and his family and his camp and all that are a little bit like, damn, the Bengals got the first pick. Damn it, that stinks. But they're also, I'm sure, like, man, we're going to be the first pick of the draft. This is special. There's a lot of positive things there. And he is from Southeast Ohio and has that backing and certainly can draw people to the Cincinnati Bengals stadium and do all that and, have something to latch onto there as, being a guy for the franchise. And there is a lot of positives about that for Joe Burrow, too. Also the positives of, like, can you be that guy to turn around an organization? Can you be it? And I do think he has the talent to be that. I understand the fearfulness of the situation. I do get it. I think Zach Taylor, he's got a bright future. The Bengals are totally in a transition, though. I mean, they are rebuilding. We don't even know what they're going to do with A.J. Green yet. So I understand all that. It's just a tough one. Because also, you got to think about this, right, Mike? I mean, if you're Joe Burrow and you go down this road, right, and where you start to say, I don't want to be picked by them, man, scrutiny comes and you get put under a microscope even to a greater degree when you get into the NFL now, because if you do mess up, people are going to go, oh, look here's the guy that called his shot. I didn't want to be on that team. He stinks anyways, right? You're going to have to deal with that as well. So it's a tough situation, I'm sure, but it's still a great honor to be the number one pick of the draft, and that is a special thing too.
But it's not an honor, Chris. Look, here's the thing. I was arguing with some of my friends recently, and yes, I do have friends, contrary to popular belief, about the draft and how it's anti-American, and in no other industry does the employer, a group of employers come together and say, we'll take this guy, we'll take this guy. And this notion that it's an honor, because one of my friends said, hey, if they don't like it, don't play. It's like, wait, the teams are drafting these guys not because they just want to engage in an act of charity. They are selecting guys. They are squatting on guys who are going to help them win, right? These guys have a unique, highly marketable skill set that they have honed to perfection and put themselves in position to be so desirable that someone would make them the number one overall pick in the draft. It is not an honor to be told, hey, you know what? You may want to go play for a different team. You may want to live in a different city. You may want to work for a different coach. You may want to play with a different group of teammates, but you don't get any say in that. It's an honor that we're going to tell you where your career is going to begin. And I think one of the reasons he's treading lightly, and I was surprised yesterday, Chris, Joe Burrow said, and this comes via the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, I do have leverage. Well, you've only got so much leverage, because if you decide that you're not going to go to the Bengals and the Bengals draft you, your leverage consists of sitting out the entire season and re-entering the draft.
Yeah.
Giving up a year of guaranteed pay, giving up that 4-year, $36 million fully guaranteed contract that you sign as the number one overall pick, and re-entering the process next year when Trevor Lawrence is going to be the first overall pick, and you may slide down the stack because out of sight, out of mind. And oh, by the way, the Bengals may draft you again next year, right? And I wouldn't put it past Mike Brown to draft him twice. So I don't know how much leverage you really have. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You don't have leverage because you're stuck in a system where you get drafted and your option is don't get paid, don't play football, sit out for a year, and subject yourself again to this inherently uncertain process where you have no control over where you're going to go.
No, yeah, I mean, listen, from all those, I mean, you're right. You make a lot of great points. There's no doubt about that. I will disagree with you to say it's it's not an honor. It's an honor to be the number one pick in the NFL draft. You go down in the lures of NFL history forever as being that guy. So that is cool. Now, the Bengals thing certainly is an issue. Yes, they've been less than. They're dysfunctional. You've heard me say a number of times over the last few weeks, they need a rebranding. You got to get rid of that helmet and that stupid uniform. I'm sorry. Change it around. Do something new. Denver Broncos were 0-4 in Super Bowls. They changed their uniforms. Damn, they've won 2. You got to do something to change up the vibe. The Patriots were crap. Bill Parcells changed the uniforms. They don't lose ever since. There is something to that. But either way, the other thing I'll throw in too, where just to play like devil's advocate with you, these are a chance too as a competitor. Yeah, you want to be the number one guy, right? I know you want to go to a team that you feel like has a clue of what's going on, but you have a chance in a guy like Joe Burrow to really be the savior of an organization that has had no success. And that is special, too, to be that guy. And I feel like we're coming on a lot of young quarterbacks. Like, hey, Kyler Murray could have done this last year. What was there to be like, oh, I want to go to the Arizona Cardinals. They're winners. Why? Because they went to an NFC championship game 5 years ago with Bruce Arians? Whoa, they're winners. Yeah. So there's issues there, too.
Wait.
Yeah, okay.
But he had Cliff Kingsbury there.
I know. That helped. I know. You're right.
Yes. But here's the thing.
Right.
What was his alternative? The Giants?
Play baseball.
Right? I mean, well, right. He had real leverage.
He had
the ultimate leverage.
Right.
He had a ton of leverage. He could have said, because for most of these guys, 99.999% of them, they don't have some other professional sport that they can go play that will pay them almost as much, if not more, than what football will pay them. So he had real leverage. He had the baseball leverage. But there wasn't really an alternative to the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals made the most sense for
No,
it.
you're right. I don't know if there was another team there yet to pick them and do that and be involved. I get it. I'm here. All I'm just trying to say is it also can be a special opportunity. We saw, you look at that. Hey, Russell Wilson, Seattle was never a winner. I know they were relevant, but, there he is now, and they've won a Super Bowl, and they've been in another one, and he's like God in Seattle, right? Tom Brady, hey, a little New England, what the hell were they until he got there with Belichick, and they turned it around. And now he's the greatest thing in Boston sports history. Peyton Manning, the Colts, gosh, they wouldn't done crap since Johnny Unitas. Oh, they can't win. They're not winners. He turned them around. He's the face of their franchise forever now. And even with Patrick Mahomes, I look at it and just go, Kansas City, they were kind of like had a stigma too, and he's reversed that. So there are challenges there, for a Joe Burrow to latch onto and maybe like as well, just as a competitor. But I also understand it is the Bengals, and you're right. I've heard more horror stories from players, team, coaches, whatever it may be, about the Bengals and how they're run compared to other teams than any other team. So I understand the concerns by Joe Burrow or his family if they do have them. I get it. They're real. I mean, it's not the best look the Bengals put forward on a year-to-year basis.
I mean, it really is ridiculous to think that a league with 32 independent businesses, this is not one unitary business like some other sports leagues are. This is 32 separate businesses. They are able to come together and call dibs on guys, and you've got nothing you can do or very little that you can do. If you don't want to play for that team, if you don't want to live in that city, if you don't want to have anything to do with that coach, that organization, whatever, you've got no real alternative to it, and that's always going to bug me, even though people think it's un-American to call the draft un-American. If you think about it, and I've convinced stats of this, it took some time, the draft really is un-American. Guys should be able to decide where they want to work, and there are ways to ensure that there would be competitive balance, even if teams can decide where they want to go, not the other way around. Steve Bartkowski, the first number one overall pick in the draft that I ever became aware of, because that's back when I started following football, 1975 draft. Steve Bartkowski, number one overall pick, the Atlanta Falcons. Bartkowski thinks that Joe Burrow should pull an Eli Manning and make that power play because, number one, the Bengals are a bad organization, in Bartkowski's opinion, and number two, Bartkowski played for a bad organization. He said he spent more time in the hospital recuperating from injuries in his first 3 years than he did throwing touchdowns. And if it's the Bengals for Joe Burrow, I'd pull in Eli Manning. I said you've got a chance to do that. That's happened. John Elway set the tone. Then the Mannings delved into it after Eli was picked by San Diego. And it really is amazing to me, because they were the San Diego Chargers at the time. They're not anymore. It really is amazing to me that more guys haven't done it. That's why today's draft is going to be guys who should have done it. Now, Bo Jackson kind of did it.
Yeah, right.
When he did choose baseball over the Buccaneers, but then the next year the Raiders took a flyer on him. He decided to play football, and until he had the hip replacement, he was on track to possibly be a two-sport Hall of Famer. But look, I don't know where this is going to go from here. It's funny, though, to hear people like Jimmy Burrow, Joe Burrow's dad, and Robin Burrow, his mother, say we don't know where this came from. This is all coming from the fact that Joe has yet to come out and say, I want the Bengals. If the Bengals want me, I want the Bengals. I hope the Bengals take me. I can't wait to play for the Bengals. I can't wait to wear that ugly-ass helmet. I want to play for the Bengals. Until he says that, this is still going to be out there. So people who think we're making something up, and there's a lot of Bengals fans and people who cover the Bengals who think their ship is finally coming in and people are actually going to care about the things they write about because the team's going to be relevant when they have Joe Burrow, and they get angry when we suggest they may not have him. Wake up! It's obvious. Joe Burrow hopes the Bengals don't take him. He hopes they trade his rights to the Dolphins. It is obvious. The question is, Chris, where does it go from here? Where do you think it goes from here? Do you think he's going to make a power play at some point?
I don't. I don't get the sense that it's in him. And again, I don't know him, but I'm going off of just things where I see him talking on TV, his family, everything like that. It's
starting to come out, though.
Well, there are.
You
can see there's certainly reservations. You can see that you're right. I mean, the way they're talking is not being like, yes, I want to go number one to the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's do it. Yeah, I understand it. There's reservations. This is a huge moment in their life. I get it. Because you get stuck in the wrong situation and a team going in the wrong direction. Just like any player, you could be really good and you get stuck in that situation. It just doesn't matter. You're going to be looked at. You're going to look like a less than average player when the organization and team around you are less than average as well. So it is big. I get it. But I also look at a guy who just, had the guts to leave Ohio State, go to a place like LSU, change the culture there forever, right? To where LSU, they can't ever throw the ball. They've never thrown the ball in the 170 years of existence. And all of a sudden, he's throwing the ball better than anybody we've ever seen in the history of college football for LSU. I think he's going to welcome this challenge when all's said and done. Even though he might not be sitting there just loving the fact of it, he does have a chance to, go in there and be the John Elway of Cincinnati and have every car dealership in town and have 4 restaurants in town. You could be that guy in Cincinnati because they're that starving for a winner. And that's, to me, one thing to look at just as far as a positive thing if you're a guy like Joe Burrow.
One last point, and Burrow has pointed this out. It's still early in the process,
it is.
Right? He hasn't taken any visits yet. It's possible he goes and visits the Bengals and decides, I want to be here. I like the direction this is heading.
Right.
Or he could go to Cincinnati and decide he doesn't want to be here. And it was Eli Manning who decided after visiting the Chargers in 2004 that he didn't believe the front office and the coaching staff were on the same page about whether they wanted him. That's what made him not want the Chargers. And Archie ended up being the face of that effort, so Eli had some distance from it. But it was the visit that made Eli believe San Diego was not the place for him. So the visit, and when you compare and contrast Cincinnati with Miami, with other cities he may visit, other teams he may spend time with, he's going to develop an opinion as to whether or not he wants to play for the Bengals. So maybe he's just being hesitant for now. He'll make a decision later. It'll be one of the stories of the offseason.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.